There is a man who walks into a room and immediately, without saying a word, people move out of his way. There is a woman who speaks once in a meeting and suddenly everyone else goes quiet, waiting. There is a leader who inspires loyalty not because he is the most talented person in the room, but because people believe he is. What do these people have that others do not? Is it genetics, luck, or is it something that can be learned, studied, and deliberately applied? The answer, according to one of history's most controversial and clear-eyed thinkers, is perception. Not who you are, but who people believe you are. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote The Prince in 1513. He was writing for a Renaissance ruler navigating a world of betrayal, shifting alliances, and sudden violence. But the psychological principles he laid down in that small, brutal book are not relics of a distant political era. They are operational today in every office, every relationship, every social environment you inhabit, because human nature has not changed. The desire for safety, status, certainty, and respect is the same now as it was 500 years ago. Today, we are going to go deep into the Machiavellian science of managing perception, not in the shallow, surface-level way that most people understand it, but at the level of psychology, behavior, and strategic thinking. We are going to look at what Machiavelli actually said, why it works, and how you can apply these principles in your own life without becoming a villain. This is not about lying. It is not about manipulation in the petty, dishonest sense. It is about understanding that perception is a real force in the world, it operates independently of reality, and the people who understand how to shape it live fundamentally different lives than those who ignore it. Let us begin. Section 1. The fundamental Machiavellian insight. Machiavelli opens the central idea of perception management with a line that has disturbed people for centuries. He writes that men in general judge more by their eyes than by their hands, because everyone is in a position to watch, but few are in a position to come in close contact with you. Everyone sees what you appear to be, very few actually know what you are, and those few dare not contradict the opinion of the many. Read that again carefully. Everyone sees what you appear to be, very few know what you are. This is not cynicism. This is just an accurate description of how social reality works. The majority of the people in your life are making judgments about you based on extremely limited information. They see your posture, they hear the confidence or uncertainty in your voice, they notice whether you respond immediately or take your time. They observe how other people treat you, they pick up on dozens of small signals, and from those signals they construct an image of who you are. That image, that constructed picture in their minds, is what determines how they treat you. Not your intentions, not your internal experience, not your private knowledge or your private suffering, the image. This is the first and most important thing Machiavelli wants us to understand. You are always being perceived. You are always broadcasting signals. The only question is whether you are doing it deliberately or accidentally, whether you are the author of your image or simply a passive subject of other people's projections. The Machiavellian move is to become the author. Section 2. The appearance of virtue is more powerful than virtue itself. Machiavelli makes a shocking claim in The Prince. He says it is not necessary for a ruler to actually have qualities like mercy, loyalty, and integrity, but it is absolutely necessary to appear to have them. This sounds deeply cynical when you first hear it, but let us think about what he is really saying. He is not saying, be dishonest. He is identifying a structural truth about how social influence works. People respond to signals, and signals can become decoupled from the underlying reality. A person who is genuinely kind but comes across as cold and dismissive will be treated as cold and dismissive. A person who is unreliable but has learned to project confidence and dependability will be trusted, at least in the short term. Now, Machiavelli was not naive. He understood that eventually, over time, actions reveal character. He was not arguing for long-term deception as a sustainable strategy. What he was arguing was that in the short to medium term, the decisive period in which alliances are formed, opportunities are seized, and power is either gained or lost, appearance does the work. What does this mean practically? It means that developing genuine virtue is important, but communicating that virtue clearly and consistently is equally important. Most people assume that being good is enough, that if they work hard, remain honest, and treat people well, the world will see and reward them accordingly. Machiavelli would say this is naive. The world does not automatically see. You have to make it visible. The modern version of this insight shows up everywhere. In job interviews, the candidate with the best qualification does not always get the job. The candidate who most effectively communicates competence and trustworthiness gets the job. In leadership, the most analytically brilliant person does not always lead. The person who can project vision, decisiveness, and calm under pressure leads. In relationships, the person with the deepest emotional capacity is not always the most attractive. The person who communicates depth, mystery, and strength attracts. Virtue is the foundation, but appearance is the architecture that makes the foundation livable. Section 3. Controlling the narrative. One of the most sophisticated things Machiavelli understood was the power of narrative. Whoever controls the story controls the perception, and whoever controls the perception controls the reality. In The Prince, he analyzes rulers who failed not because they lacked capability, but because they lost control of their narrative. Their enemies told the story first, told it louder, told it more compellingly, and the ruler was permanently defined by someone else's version of events. This is a catastrophic mistake that ordinary people make every single day. When something goes wrong at work, the person who explains it first sets the frame. When a relationship ends, the person who speaks first shapes how the social circle understands what happened. When a reputation is under attack, silence is almost always interpreted as confirmation. Narrative abhors a vacuum. If you do not fill it, someone else will, and they will not fill it in your favor. The Machiavellian principle here is simple and ruthless. Do not let others define you. Define yourself clearly, early, and consistently. This requires you to have a clear sense of who you are and who you want to be seen as. What are the core qualities you want people to associate with you? What is the version of yourself that you want to project into the world? You cannot control that image without first knowing what it is you are trying to project. Once you know, you begin to build the narrative actively. You tell stories that reinforce it. You put yourself in situations that demonstrate it. You let go of the behaviors and associations that contradict it. And when challenges arise, when the narrative is threatened, you respond quickly, calmly, and with clarity. One of the most powerful narrative tools Machiavelli points to is the use of symbolic action. A single dramatic, well-chosen action can define a reputation for years. He gives the example of Cesare Borgia, who needed to establish order in a violent and unruly province. He appointed a ruthless general to do the dirty work, restore order with an iron hand, and then publicly executed that same general, presenting himself as the man of justice who punished excess. One symbolic act, multiple messages delivered simultaneously. I am powerful enough to control the violent, I am just enough to punish cruelty, and I am calculating enough to use both when I need to. You do not need to be Cesare Borgia to use this principle. In your own world, a single well-chosen action, a decisive response to a challenge, a generous gesture made at the right moment, a firm boundary held under pressure, can reshape how an entire social group sees you. Section 4. The strategic use of silence and scarcity. Machiavelli understood something that modern psychology has confirmed repeatedly. People do not value what is easily available. Scarcity creates desire. And one of the most powerful forms of scarcity is informational scarcity. The person who speaks constantly, who shares everything, who is always available, always visible, always vocal, trains the people around them to tune them out. Because there is no cost to ignoring them. There is always more coming. The person who speaks rarely but precisely, who is sometimes unavailable, who guards their thoughts and reveals them selectively, creates a different dynamic entirely. Their words carry weight because they are scarce. Their presence is valued because it is not always guaranteed. Their opinions are sought because they are not freely dispensed. This is one of the clearest places where Machiavellian thinking converges with modern behavioral psychology. We value what we work for. We value what is rare. We pay attention to what might disappear. Strategic silence is one of the most underrated social tools available to you. When someone makes a statement you disagree with, the instinct is to argue immediately. The Machiavellian move is often to say nothing, hold eye contact, and let the silence work. Let the other person fill it. People are extraordinarily uncomfortable with silence and will almost always rush to fill it, often revealing more than they intended, often walking back what they said without you having to say a word. In negotiations, silence after an offer is made is one of the most powerful moves available. It communicates that you are not desperate, that you are evaluating, that you have options, and that the offer needs to be better. And again, most people will move to fill the silence by improving the offer. Beyond silence, the strategic management of availability sends powerful signals. The person who is always immediately responsive, always on call, always making themselves available to everyone, communicates that their time is not particularly valuable. The person who responds on their own terms, who is not always reachable, who people have to work a little to access, communicates the opposite. Even if the underlying reality is the same, the signal is different, and the signal shapes the perception. Section 5. Managing impressions in conflict. Machiavelli wrote that there are two ways of fighting, by law and by force. The first is proper to men, the second to beasts. But because the first is often insufficient, it becomes necessary to have recourse to the second. In modern life, conflict rarely involves literal force, but the psychological principle holds. There are conflicts you win through reason and persuasion, and there are conflicts where the only thing that establishes position is a clear, confident, and sometimes aggressive display of willingness to hold your ground. The person who backs down in every conflict trains others to bring conflict. The person who is known to hold their ground, who does not get rattled, who responds to aggression with calm certainty rather than anxiety or capitulation, trains others not to bring conflict in the first place. This is the deterrence principle in interpersonal dynamics. You do not actually have to fight every battle. You have to project convincingly that you are capable of fighting them, that you do not fear them, and that the cost of attacking you is higher than the benefit. How do you project this? Through your response to the first test. Almost every social environment eventually tests you. A challenge to your authority, a passive-aggressive comment designed to see if you will address it, a boundary push to see if it holds. How you respond to that first test sets the template for how you will be treated going forward. The Machiavellian insight is that you must respond decisively and clearly to the first test, not with aggression, not with anger, but with a calm certainty that leaves no doubt about where you stand. Because the people watching are not just watching to see how you handle this particular moment. They are watching to gather data about who you are. They are running a calculation. Is this person someone I can push around? Or is this person someone I have to take seriously? Answer that question clearly, early, and you rarely have to answer it again. Section 6. The art of being loved and feared. Machiavelli poses what may be the most famous question in The Prince. Is it better to be loved or feared? His answer is that it would be best to be both. But since the two rarely coexist, it is safer to be feared than loved if you must choose. Most people react to this with discomfort. They want to be liked. Being feared sounds harsh, even cruel, but Machiavelli's reasoning is worth understanding carefully. He argues that love is a bond that men break whenever their interests require it, but fear is maintained by a dread of punishment that never fails. In other words, affection is contingent. When circumstances change, when there is something to gain, affection evaporates. Fear, properly understood, not terror or cruelty, but a kind of serious, sober respect, combined with the clear sense that there will be consequences for betrayal, is more reliable. What does this mean in practice? It means that likability alone is not a stable foundation for social power. If people like you but do not respect you, they will be pleasant to your face and ignore your requests, undermine your authority, and fail to follow through when it matters. Their affection does not translate into compliance. But respect, genuine respect combined with the sense that you hold yourself to a high standard and expect others to meet it, creates a more reliable dynamic. People may not always enjoy your presence the way they enjoy someone who is purely warm and agreeable. But they take you seriously. They follow through. They do not test your boundaries because they already know where those boundaries are, and what happens when they are crossed. The ideal, as Machiavelli says, is both, and it is achievable. The person who is genuinely warm, generous, and caring, but who also has a clear spine, who holds standards, who does not perform weakness under pressure, who responds to bad faith with calm and proportionate consequences, that person achieves both. They are loved because they are genuinely good to be around. They are respected because it is clear they do not need you to like them. The mistake most people make is sacrificing respect for approval. They bend themselves to be liked. They tolerate behavior that should not be tolerated. They give up their standards to avoid conflict. And in doing so, they communicate that they are available to be disrespected, that their stated limits are negotiable, that their approval can be purchased cheaply. Machiavelli would say, it costs you the only thing that really matters, which is the respect of the people around you. Section 7. The image of the lion and the fox. Machiavelli writes that a ruler must know how to use both the nature of the beast and the nature of man. Of the beasts, he should choose the lion and the fox. The lion cannot defend itself from traps, and the fox cannot defend itself from wolves. You must therefore be a fox to recognize traps and a lion to frighten wolves. This is one of the most brilliant metaphors in the entire book, and it maps perfectly onto the modern challenge of managing perception. The fox represents intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to read the environment accurately. The lion represents strength, presence, and the willingness to stand firm under pressure. Most people are too much of one and not enough of the other. The person who is all fox, all strategic thinking, and no real presence or strength is someone people find clever but do not fully trust. There is a sense of slipperiness, of calculation, of someone who will find the angle. Clever, yes. Trustworthy under pressure? Less certain. The person who is all lion, all presence and strength with no strategic awareness, is easy to trap. They can be manipulated through their pride, their certainty, their unwillingness to adapt. They project power, but they walk into snares. The fully formed Machiavellian projection requires both. The strategic awareness to see the environment clearly, to recognize what is actually happening, to read the real motivations of the people around you, and the grounded strength to not be moved by pressure, fear, or the desire for approval. In practice, this means cultivating two habits simultaneously. The first is radical observation, watching people carefully, not just what they say, but how they say it, not just what they do, but when, not just their words, but the pattern of their words over time. The person who watches well sees traps before walking into them. The second is physical and psychological presence. The lion does not need to roar constantly, but when it stands, you know it is standing. Developing this quality, the quality of rootedness, of being fully present, of taking up appropriate space, of speaking with weight, is a practice, a skill, and it is available to anyone willing to develop it. Section 8. Never appear weak, especially in transition. Machiavelli is insistent on this point, and it is worth dwelling on. He argues that nothing damages a leader more than appearing weak or indecisive, especially at critical transition points. The moment power is perceived to be uncertain, rivals move, allies hedge, neutral parties pull back and wait to see who will win before committing. In your own life, transition points are everywhere. A new job, a new relationship, a new social group, a promotion, a project where leadership is unclear. These are the moments where perception is most malleable, most up for grabs, and therefore most important to manage deliberately. The first impression is not just about what people think of you on first meeting. It is about the identity category they place you in, the script they will run with you. If in the first days of a new job you appear uncertain, deferential, and eager to please, the people around you will code you as someone who can be given the undesirable tasks, who can be talked over, who will accommodate. If you appear competent, clear, and easy to work with but unambiguous about your standards, you are coded differently, and that coding has momentum. It takes enormous effort to change it later. This does not mean performing false confidence. It means making clarity a priority. Even in genuinely uncertain situations, you can be clear about your values, clear about how you want to engage, clear about what you expect. Clarity itself communicates a kind of stability that reads as strength. Machiavelli also argues that changes should be made all at once if they need to be made. Gradual, incremental injury, spreading discomfort over time, is worse than delivering the full impact in one blow. Because over time, people remember each injury. But a single clear event allows the healing to begin and the new order to establish itself. Translated into modern terms, if you need to make a difficult decision, make it clearly and completely. If you need to draw a line, draw it once and hold it. Half measures, gradual retreats, and uncertain signals leave everyone in a state of anxious uncertainty, which corrodes trust and creates resentment on all sides. Section 9, the appearance of consistency and the reality of adaptability. Here is a seeming contradiction in Machiavelli that actually points to one of the most sophisticated insights in the entire book. He argues both that a ruler must appear consistent and that the successful ruler must be capable of adapting to changing circumstances. How do you hold both? The key is understanding what people need to trust you. They need to believe that your core values are fixed, that there is a stable center to you that will not change with the wind, that your word means something, that your commitments are real, that your character is reliable. But within that stable frame, successful people adapt constantly. How they communicate, what they prioritize in a given moment, which tools they use, which alliances they lean on, all of this can and should change as circumstances change. The person who is rigid in method but not principle will break. The person who is flexible in method but anchored in principle will bend and recover. This maps onto the modern understanding of what we might call secure high self-esteem. People with genuine, stable self-respect are paradoxically the most adaptable because they are not threatened by change. They do not need any particular circumstance to stay the same in order to feel okay. They can walk into a new situation, assess it accurately, and respond to what is actually there rather than what they need it to be. The person who is rigid, who cannot adapt, who insists on the same approach regardless of context, is usually rigid because they are insecure. They have found one formula that works and they are terrified to deviate from it because they are not sure there is anything underneath it. That kind of rigidity reads as weakness, not strength. True Machiavellian strength is the combination, a visible, consistent identity that people can orient toward, and a deep internal flexibility that allows you to respond effectively to whatever the world puts in front of you. Section 10, the final principle. Fortune favors the bold. Machiavelli ends The Prince with one of his most visceral and striking images. He writes that fortune is like a river that when it floods, sweeps everything away. But when the weather is calm, people can take precautions, build embankments and dams. And when the flood comes, those preparations determine who survives. He then adds something that has echoed through centuries. Fortune is a woman, and if you wish to keep her under it, is necessary to beat and master her. Those who proceed boldly are more successful than those who proceed cautiously, because fortune is a friend to the young, the bold, and the decisive. Strip away the gender politics of the 16th century, and what remains is a principle about initiative. Fortune rewards action. Opportunity is not a stable, permanent thing waiting patiently for you to decide you are ready. It is dynamic, it is shifting, and it belongs most often to the person who moves. The person who manages perception effectively is ultimately the person who has decided to take their own life seriously, to become a deliberate actor rather than a passive subject, to understand that the story being told about them in every room they walk into is partially, significantly, consequentially shaped by choices they make. You cannot control everything. You cannot manufacture love or force respect. You cannot completely dictate how others see you, but you have far more influence over that image than most people ever exercise, because most people never try. They move through the world accidentally, reacting rather than acting, hoping to be seen correctly rather than working to be seen correctly. Machiavelli is simply the most honest, most unsentimental voice in Western intellectual history about this fact. He removes the comfortable fiction that the world will recognize your worth automatically. He replaces it with the bracing and ultimately empowering truth that you have agency, you have tools, and the outcome is not predetermined. The question is whether you will use them. Conclusion. Let us bring this together. Machiavelli teaches us that perception is not decoration, it is load-bearing structure. The image you project does real work in the world. It shapes how people treat you, what opportunities come to you, how much trust and authority you are given. Managing perception begins with a single decision: to become the deliberate author of your own image rather than its passive subject. It continues with understanding that appearance and reality, while not identical, are both real forces that must be cultivated in parallel. Developing genuine virtue is not optional, but neither is communicating it clearly. The principles we have covered are the appearance of virtue, narrative control, strategic silence in scarcity, impression management in conflict, balancing love and fear, combining the fox's cunning with the lion's presence, projecting clarity especially in transition, holding consistency of character while adapting in method, and moving with bold initiative rather than cautious hesitation. None of these require you to be dishonest. None require you to exploit people. What they require is a level of self-awareness and intentionality that most people simply never develop, because it is uncomfortable to look at yourself clearly. It is uncomfortable to acknowledge that you are responsible for how others see you. It is easier to blame them for not seeing correctly. Machiavelli would have no patience for that excuse. And honestly, neither should you. 500 years ago, a Florentine diplomat, stripped of his position, exiled from the city he loved, wrote a book in the hope that it would be useful to someone who wanted to understand how power actually worked. It still works. It still cuts. Because it is describing something true about human nature, something that does not change with technology or culture or centuries. People see what you appear to be. Very few know what you are. Those few dare not contradict the opinion of the many. Become the author of that appearance. That is the whole game.